But my name is Dave Gagnon. If you're my friend, you call me Super Dave. I just wanted to share my story. I was got into real estate as an investor when I got out of the Army back in '83. Got my license about '85, became the top listing agent in my market by '89. And so I love real estate. And I got a call from some guy. His name was Jason Guessing. He told me he was the president of this company that I had never heard about. And so I quickly did a search and found out that they weren't open in the state I lived, in the state I worked. They had 4 agents in a neighboring state and all of that. And so I really wasn't interested in talking. And so I told him that. We wished each other well. And the call was about a 5-minute call. 6 months later, he called me back. And I told him I was still happy, thanks for calling, maybe we'll talk in a year. And he asked me the best question that I ever could have been asked in my life. He said, David, if you were talking to someone that you really wanted to be in business with and they were not open-minded, what would you tell them? And I thought about it for a moment and I said, well, it would be fiscally irresponsible to say yes or no without understanding all the details. And then I thought in my head, ooh, and he said, yeah, that. That was the entire closing sequence. So I agreed to a 15-minute coffee meeting at Panera, which was halfway between our homes. And I went to that meeting and I planned on being polite and having a cup of coffee and listen to him pontificate for 15 minutes, tell him that I wasn't interested and be on my way. Well, it turned into 2.5 hours and he showed me everything that I needed to see. And the next morning, I resigned from my salary and nice bonus position that I had with Keller Williams. And I was in the process of negotiating to take over several offices in another state as a general manager and all of those things. And I came to eXp. And so we were not open in my home state. They only had 4 agents in all of New England and they weren't open in New York. And no one ever heard of them, right? So I was my agent number is 123 in the company. They were open in 14 states. Most of the states they were opened in, they didn't have 2 agents to rub together. The reason why I tell you that story is if you're looking at eXp to be part of expansion and we're not in your state or your city in the United States, if we're not in your country or if we're not in your corner of your country, I want you to understand my story that I was in the same position, right, way back then. So that was 7.5 years ago. And I started focusing on building my team, my revenue share group. And so at that time, I think I was 4 or 5 wide. And my total group size at that point, it was April, and my group size was 25 people in my group. So I ended that year with 179. The next year I had 661. The next year, 1,500. The next year, 2,200. And we just ended last year with a little over 3,200 agents. I have found this to be an amazing journey. So I have found a total of 43 partners and through them over 3,200 people. And I say 3,200 knowing that the current calculator or the current dashboard does not tie in all of our global team yet. And I know that I have at least a couple hundred people percolating throughout the world. So I thought what I would do is I'd like to share 2 things. One would be the back office. And the reason why I think it's important is to show, how things pay off a little bit. Okay, so this is my dashboard, right? So I brought in a total of 42 frontline agents and a total of 22 FLQAs. So here's my group size right now, 3,200. This is one of the most impressive numbers. 192 agents and brokers have joined my 7 levels of rev share in the last 30 days. And I've helped some people make those decisions, but none of them are frontline. Revenue share, they just pulled the trigger on revenue share checks. And so I currently have 20,000 plus already building for next month's calculation, right? And so that'll continue to go up until about the 19th of February. This is the check that I'll have coming on about the 22nd of January. And so that's 1 month's revenue share. And just to give you an idea, I think this one is kind of important here. And so we have the ability to look backwards, right? Back to January of last year, because it kind of gives you some perspective. So January of last year, you can see that I was paid 66. And so to go from 66 to 90, working 18 hours a week, is kind of a cool program. And just so you guys know, Jason invited me to come and share my story with you guys. Jason's on my seventh level. So everything that Jason builds will be on my eighth level and below, which we don't get paid on, right? And so some people would say, you know, David, why would you do that? Right? Focus on, you know, building people higher up and all of that. Really three reasons. Number one, I believe Jason has tremendous value, and his willingness to share his strategies and tactics with me has been a blessing. And I believe the things that he is doing and planning on doing is going to help his organization grow incredibly. And by him sharing, that also gives me an advantage. So number one, I look at him as a peer and a partner. Number two, and these aren't in order, but number two is building a fire in the basement, right? If Jason blows this out and gets at least as big as me now, and he'll be much bigger than me in a much shorter period of time. But if he does that, then every one of those uplines would be crazy to not get 40 wide, right? And so by them going 40 wide, that means most of them are going to double in size, which gives twice the opportunity for us to find other leaders like those guys in between us and like Jason, right? And so building a fire in the basement may not pay someone directly, but it pays through incentive. And the third is paying it forward. You know, I always understand that if it were dependent only on me and I was selling real estate to make a living, I can sell it at a high level. If I built a team, I can train a team and teach them how to make money. If I built a brokerage, I can recruit and I can teach those agents how to make money. But to be able to attract leaders that are as good as me or better than me and have a system where if they do what I've done, or they do better than what I've done, or they do half of what I've done, it will change their family's history forever, right? And so my life has been changed forever. Right now, I'm averaging something on par on $83,000 a month over the last 6 months. That'll put me at $1 million just in revenue share. And I've been working part-time for 2 years, right? Now that said, we have a little calculator that one of our guys, Randy Reese, put together. And he said, Dave, if you put in all of your levels and how much your check was, it'll show you how much you're missing out on. And so on the month that I made, this was a few months ago, I did the calculation. On the month I made $87,000, I missed out on $50,000 for not being 40 wide. And so that has gotten back in my head, you know, the fiscally irresponsible part of me. And so I'm committing to the team that I will get 40 wide this year. And again, this is a non-official EXP calculator, okay?
Yeah,
so
educational purposes only, right?
Educational purposes only. So the way I have this set up is if you put in the cap, the GCI, it'll run the percentages of revenue share off of that. Now remember, this is a US example. Like in Mexico, the cap is 250,000 pesos. And based on how the global models are rolling out, I think it'll be easier to do it off of the cap number. And so I just need a couple hours to change those formulas. However, I'll use the example in US dollars, and each country, of course, has its own model. So this is not to show, you know, what it would be in India or South Africa or whatever, but I'll update the calculator so you'll be able to do that calculation and to show you how I walk through. So Colleen, I'm going to role play this with you like I'm looking to have you understand revenue share in EXP. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So, so Colleen, if you were to come here and to tell this story and have agents truly understand the power of the Icon program and how that has set so many people free. And you were really passionate about it and you focused on it. Let me put in 12. That's a very realistic number. Now let's talk about those agents, right? Because we can most certainly go after brand newbies, folks who need mentoring and all those kind of things. I think it is far easier to attract someone who's an Icon agent, which typically would be 20 to 35 transactions a year, depending on average sale price. And so not the average sale per agent, but what's the average number of sales for the agents that you would focus on going after? How many per year?
Well, I mean, so you're saying it's easier to find those top performers to show them this? Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll share that dialogue with you guys during one of our sessions. But yes.
But yeah, you would want someone who at least has probably, I would say comfortably 15 to 20 per year.
Okay. I'm going to go on the low side, 15. Okay.
Okay.
Average sale price?
Let's say it's 300.
300.
Okay.
Yep. And then the average commission per side. And we're not setting a standard. We're just saying what in your area is about the average that agents.
I believe here we're at 6% that's split 50-50. So I think it's 3%.
Okay, great. And then we have this thing called the modifier. So EXP has committed to always pay out 50% of the company dollar back to the people who build the company. And if you add up the numbers, right, and this was like a big objection back in the day, if you add up all the numbers that could be paid out at all levels, it adds up to the entire cap, right? But mathematically, that could never happen. Even if I were 40 wide and Chuck was 40 wide and David was 40 wide and Marty was 40 wide and Jason just joined, Jason wouldn't be 40 wide. You follow me?
Yes.
So there's no way that everybody in the number could be 40 wide. So the company built in this a modifier. They call it the SRS. I forget what that stands for. But it's just a number for them to fluctuate up and down to make sure they pay out 50%. So last month it was 12%. So I got 12% in there. Okay. And so then I put in the GCI cap. And like I said, if you're watching this video in the future, it may have actual cap in there. So it would be $16,000, but I'll make that clear. And then here, Colleen, I put in those 12 agents that you said that you believe that you'd be able to bring on board, right? And so that would pay $29,000 in revenue
per month?
share. That would be for the entire year.
For the year. So
for the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about this, Colleen. You come to EXP, you pay a $16,000 cap because you're a capper. You bring one agent per month over that does the numbers that you said, and you would get back $29,000.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so it has tremendous value for agents who are engaged to be here.
Correct.
Okay. So that's year one. Year two, let's say you do the same thing. You have 24 agents. Of course, that number would double. However, now you are training your folks. You're getting them plugged into Marty and Jason and Brian and everyone else, right? And you're sharing the video, you're telling the story, you're answering their questions. And so they're bringing people to calls like this. You're getting better at answering the questions. So we pay 3.5% of the gross commission on everyone you bring in directly. We pay 4% on your second line. So you actually get paid more to help build out your agents. Pretty good concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're helping them attract, and they don't have to recruit. They just need to bring people to the presentation and we're going to answer their questions and they're going to make up their own mind when they have the facts. How many people, if you're bringing in 12 a year, how many do you think they would average themselves in their first year?
I don't know. I would want it to be wanting to perform at the same level, but even if you say half of that, that's still a good number. If you multiply that by 24 people.
So I'm going to say, what if they only average, so half of 12 would be 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, what if they only average 4? I want to be
Sure.
conservative.
That's fair.
Okay. They average 4. How do you like that?
Wow. Nice.
What if, so that's maybe 2 or 3 years out. Now, what if they only average 2 each?
Wow.
What if they only average 1 each? What if they only average a half a person each?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, you haven't added any more.
Right.
What if you added 1 more? Wait. So let's say they average a half each. So this will show you this, okay?
Sure.
So you notice this number did not go up a whole lot. You see that?
Uh-huh.
The reason is you're at 24 qualified agents. You need 25 qualified agents to unlock the big bonus here on level 6. So watch this. What if you go to 25? Remember this number, 954?
Got it. Wow.
So every sales job that I ever had in my life was built on the stick concept, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do this, you're fired. If you don't hit this number, you don't exist, right? And so every interview was predicated on, we love you, we want you to be here. And then as soon as you were there, here's your performance goals and you have to do them. And I never took a position based on the stick. I always wanted to know, if I do the maximum amount that you think I'm going to do, what am I going to get paid? Right. I've always been carrot driven because I will run through walls if the motivation on the other side is big enough. Glenn built this company totally on the carrot. What if you did 40 frontline and everyone else still did the same number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what if your level 7 only brought in a quarter of a person each? Only a quarter of a person each over time.
Hit enter. Ah, nice.
Okay.
And that's without having to sell a property yourself.
Okay.
Nice.
Now, that said, no one makes any money at EXP unless we sell properties.
Right.
Okay. And so I am not saying everyone should come here and only recruit, because then no one makes any money.